First we'll take 6A, it is about background, then we'll take that. What people will do is that, okay, largely they will try to write on this, then they will try to write this, they will not necessarily write this. This is the main demand. This is the main demand. So main demand is not to write on good governance, write its characteristics, write its this benefits, the facts, etc. The main demand is its context. It is related to the context. The context will be written by those who know the concept clearly. Those who do not know concept, they will not write. Very clearly speaking, you may feel hard, that's different thing, it is first discussion. Gradually you will learn it. So, this way we can consider. Now how to, let's say, tell it. So, context simply, let's say, when you get any topic has its own context. The way we say that good governance is a contemporary development, you can say that. A good governance is a recent development in public administration, which is considered as a value-laden concept, as it gives emphasis on following values. This, it will be proved also that it gives emphasis on valuing values. Right? You can write some of the values. This. So, values like, let's say, Prime Minister, our Indian Prime Minister says good governance, art as good governance. Right? Art means accountability, responsibility, and transparency as good governance. So, we can introduce something related to the context. Then we come on, let's say, basics, and we define. So, good governance can be defined as a value-laden concept because of the term good. The term good has a specific meaning, or the good has, let's say, that a value-laden meaning. Right? Or the good indicates that a specific characteristics of governance. Right? And that, let's say, that characteristics you can write. This. So, those, let's say, that characteristics can be written. So, while defining, what we are trying to do is that we are writing also characteristics, which necessarily all people will write. Because anything that you know, best part of the good governance is its characteristics. Right? So, you can write the characteristics. This. Then necessarily you should write the context, let's say. These characteristics were given by basically World Bank. Right. The characteristic that you know, it was given by World Bank. You should also know that they have asked United Nations version of good governance once. Yes. So, United Nations has also given its own characteristics. Almost matchable characteristics they have, only 2-3 characteristics are different. It talks about inclusiveness, it talks about diversity, it talks about social justice, women empowerment. This. So, means UPSC at times can go on that level. It asks the United Nations, let's say, version of good governance, which hardly people can know by that time, isn't it? Means that is specific level. Anyhow, it means that you can write, it is not. Then context, the same context, you know that. Governance, good governance have been conceptualized by largely 3 reports during 90s. Which, let's say, this time we have not asked any difference between governance and good governance. In this paper, we have not asked, right? Because we try to avoid repetition of our questions. So, every year, let's say, maybe we ask, let's say, this year, and they may not ask next year. What we ask in June batch, they will ask next year. This is how it happens also at times. Some questions, let's say you ask now, they may not necessarily ask. Because we have to avoid both aspects, UPSC paper and our own last year papers. So that way we have to keep the paper fresh, although some UPSC papers we repeat at certain point. This. So you should write the context which will be related to 1989. Detail you can read from model answer. Right. Are the model answer given? In that also it will be given 1997. There were 3 reports by the World Bank which ultimately gave to conceptualization of good governance. This. So this, why we are giving so much emphasis? Because you know that they have given, the conceptualization happened because of them. It's another matter that good governance was known here and there, even in our country in ancient time and Kautilya Shastra. But that's not the concept of good governance. That is the reference, you can see. The reference cannot be a concept. So reference we can use. So this way we can say, but that is how it result into conceptualization. That already characteristics we have written. Then we have to write this, the main part, that why it was talked, let's say, what its root, let's say that. So where the roots of that go, this, why it was told. So then you have to relate that these things came in the context of neoliberal philosophy. This, and this neoliberal philosophy came. So root goes back to this 1960s. This new right philosophy. It was new right philosophy, right, which influenced public choice approach, and it was impact of public choice approach which influenced structural adjustment program. This, and structural adjustment program influence LPG, and then finally let's say governance and good governance. In fact, it influenced new public management. We will relate somewhere this. Here we are writing this. We are not concerned with this at this stage. There is another question we are concerned. So this, in a way, structural adjustment program, and this was, let's say that linked to structural adjustment program. We say that you tell in criticism good governance was promoted as aid conditionalities, right, and imposition of reforms. So what were those aid conditionalities and imposition of reforms on developing countries? And these good governance or governance ideas were talked for developing countries, not for developed countries. And in the name of good governance, what they should do? They should bring reforms. And what were those reforms they were talking? So when in 1989, World Bank talks about good that governance, the 4 components, the first was related to public sector management. The public sector management is nothing but new public management. This you should know that. The public sector management is nothing but a structural adjustment program, nothing but new economic policy. The public sector management means you reform your public sector. And how to reform your public sector? By bringing more efficiency aspect. Others were related to, it was transparency, accountability and rule of law. This you can say. The other 4, let's say 3 components in 89. So World Bank advocated the idea of good governance that was rooting in neoliberal philosophy, as the good governance was a neoliberal concept. Right. Good governance was a more Western concept. It was more based on the Western liberal values. And the characteristics that we talk about the good governance, it's efficiency, equity, equality, rule of law, transparency, accountability. So by that, good governance was nothing but, let's say that, propagation of Western liberal values for developing countries to solve their problems and tackle issues related to corruption, so that there can be corruption-free governance. Hence we can say that contemporary, let's say that roots of good governance can be taken from neoliberal philosophy. Right. Although the idea, then you can say that although the idea of good governance is not new, it can be considered as old as society or even our ancient philosophy like Kautilya or Shastra, or even Ram Raj concept that we talk in India. means in our country, but as far as concept is concerned, as far as a value-laden concept is concerned, it is a contemporary development which was propagated during 1990s by World Bank. Right. That is how this main aspect. That resulted into most of the countries like talking about good governance. Even let's say that in India also there was a talk for good governance, like in 1997, All India Chief Ministers Conference adopted a resolution. It adopted a resolution for responsible government. Responsible government. This, in fact, good governance, they influence reforms, and let's say most of the countries started adopting good governance like RTI, Citizen Charter, social audit, some, let's say that aspect. Although it was criticized, the weaknesses you should write that criticism. Criticism, now you can write that, so a bit of criticism can be written. Not details, as it is not asking that. Detail means, let's say, criticisms means it is a Western concept, imposition of aid conditionalities. It is based on, let's say, World Bank model. The World Bank was advocating a business model of good governance. Good governance means more about the ease of doing business, so that corporate sector can benefit from good governance rather than citizens can benefit from good governance. So, and it was imposed as aid conditionalities. This you can say. So, a bit of criticism you can say. However, this is how you should write. Relevant and conclusion that the benefits of good governance ultimately resulted into increased democratization of society, right? Sharing of power, devolution of powers, that, and greater transparency and accountability in government. That now good governance has become part and parcel of any governance, be it Western society, developing countries, anywhere good governance is being advocated. Even good governance has been linked to sustainable development. This by United Nations. There is a strong link between good governance and sustainable development. And in India, good governance is being promoted as minimum government and maximum governance. So, this way we conclude by, that is how we have to write. Yes, you can say that. So then, yes. So good governance is a value-laden concept. There is no doubt in this. Right. Let's talk that what do we mean by value-laden? Means when we say value-laden, so what do you mean by that?
Value-laden means it has some values in governance.
Yes.
Some humanization type of thing.
Yes. Then why you think that there is no, it means it does not have, it is not value-laden?
Overall it is value-laden, but to say that it has completely value-laden concept, that is the example part. I mean, like performance orientation, monetization.
Right.
Also operating at that level.
No. Try to understand that. Question is giving emphasis on first question. The emphasis of the question is on this root side. Let me read that. Good governance is a value-laden concept promoted by neoliberal examine. This is how we can say that. So, what we can say that our examine part will not question the value-laden aspect. Right. Our examine part will question, as we were trying to say that its root is neoliberal, but then we told that we cannot say that it has, let's say, its contemporary root is neoliberal. This, but good governance is as old as society that we were saying. That part is the examine part rather than questioning its value laden. Even if something is performance oriented, it can be value laden. The value laden is related to more of normative aspect. The good governance is a normative standard. This, even if it has efficiency, let's say that efficiency, but that does not mean because of the efficiency or performance we will say it is not value laden. Rather, overall, let's say its characteristic means dominant characteristics will be value laden. We will not say it as a value free concept. Right. Rather, it is a value laden because it is talking about something normative standards of governance. The way the day we add the term good, the good is a normative standard. Now, if it is not part of this question debate, but let me tell. Now, since good is a part of normative standard, that's why good governance has been criticized also that what is good for a country is not good for another country. This, when you have normative standards, because of normative standards, it happened that the norms will differ country to country. Right. So Bhutan can give you emphasis on happiness. Right. World Bank can give you emphasis on performance because World Bank idea of good governance is performance oriented. United Nations gives emphasis on inclusiveness. Right. So value laden, we don't have to examine the value laden. Rather, we have to examine its root that is related to neoliberal ideology. And we have to tell, as we were telling, that it is not only, let's say, it can have the contemporary root from neoliberal philosophy, but since good governance idea is not new, rather it is as old as society. Right. Now that part I did not elaborate much, but now let me elaborate that see, the idea of good governance can be considered that it's not only about that, even our value premises of the constitution. The values premises of the constitution that we have the preamble, the DPSPs, the fundamental rights, fundamental duties, they are also, let's say, value premises of governance, and they are also considered as ideals of governance. This, hence, but examine does not mean complete rejection. Examine means you scrutinize the statement. Examine is not complete rejection. So we will not reject its root of contemporary times in neoliberal ideology, but we will say that the good governance idea was not new. We cannot say it just started in contemporary times. The idea can be old, but concept is new. Right. Even the term good governance was given in this. It is the World Bank which gave the term, coined the term good governance in 1997. That way we will say that